Hail cheaters, and welcome to a new Always Cheating podcast. It's a bonus pod right now, so it's going to be a little bit looser, a little bit more fun. It's like a Patreon pod, but for everyone. So as well as the stream. I'm here with my 7-year-old Quinn. Do you want to say hi real quick, Quinny? Hi. All right, so Quinn. Hey, Quinn. To get the ball rolling, we're all in a festive mood. Premier League kicks off tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. 8 p.m. Is it Greenwich Mean Time? Does it change? Is it like Eastern Daylight Time? Is it Greenwich?
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? We just call it. We'll just call it UK time.
Yeah, let's just call it UK time. 8 p.m. UK time. So Quinn has some Panini stickers here. I have not seen these yet. So do you want to do a big reveal? You want to show them off here?
I love this. We got special guest Quinn, and I'll also introduce. We have a longtime friend of the pod, Dave Weigner-Lodahl, joining us.
That other person.
Yeah, right. That other guy over there. But this is great. Yeah, totally agree. A lot of people will have tuned in to solve last-minute dilemmas for their fantasy team, but we say no. We want to open Panini stickers. That's all we want to do.
Priorities, guys. Priorities.
Then we might get to what's going on with Oscar Bobb. What's going on with Barco? I mean, we know what's going on with Oscar Bobb. He broke his leg.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, there's too much going on. So what do you got for us, Quinn?
All right, let's keep exactly. Let's keep our tone nice and light, though. All right, Quinn, so you can hear a little bit. So, all right, we've got a couple cards here. Let's see what you've got. All right, you got to show it to this screen right here. So the first one we've got is this. That's not going to show up very well, is it? Pagery.
It says Pagery.
No, that's Pagery, your boy.
Okay.
Whose boy is that? Is that Dave's boy? Maybe it's Brandon's boy. But Pagery is the
joint
first
boy
card that we've got here. All right. Then we've got Nella Barbosa. I don't even think that's soccer/football. It's rowing. So these might be Olympic.
This is an Olympic pack.
Or canoeing. Okay. All right. So there we go.
It's true. We are still basking in that Olympic halo for sure. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
I hope we get a breakdancer.
If we get a foil ray gun in this pack.
We're stopping the stream if ray gun comes out of this pack.
Yeah, Bassa Maywin is our next card. So we got some real bangers in this pack, as you can tell.
What is Bassa Maywin doing on that card?
Sport climbing.
I don't know. We've got a second Pagery card, guys.
Speed climbing.
Two
double Pageries. I did not pull the same card twice. We just have two Pageries. I don't know. Maybe one's a collector's item.
Panini's getting a stern letter after this.
Yeah, we're getting tops. We're getting tops cards after this. Man.
Yeah, and then finally we're gonna end things here with Scout Bassett. So
what an unflattering picture of Scout.
Yeah, I know exactly. Who is kind of doesn't have is slightly impaired.
I see.
So,
it's a Paralympic card. Now I will say, to totally earnestly, I love the Paralympics. It's just super phenomenal. And
do you see the Paralympic ping pong or table tennis, and they slice every ball so you can't reach?
Really?
It's
I did see that, which is kind of amazing.
That seems like a bummer. But
that feels like there needs to be some basic rules in place, right? Like if you literally can't get the ball, that feels a little unfair to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, highly recommend tuning into that. And if you had no idea what was going on there, go to our YouTube page, youtube.com/@alwayscheating, where you can watch a video and see those Panini stickers that Quinn just shared with us. Thank you, Quinn, for joining. Any last minute dilemmas? Are you dealing with any last minute dilemmas here, Quinn?
All right, can you say goodbye now?
Bye.
Bye from Quinn.
Bye, Quinn.
All right. Thank you, kiddo. All right. There we go. What a way to start.
That was great.
Double Pagery. It's going to take me a while to shake off the double Pagery.
I can't believe that just happened. We got to play the lottery tonight. Geez.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody's got to change their FPL team name to Double Pagery.
Double Pagery.
It's not an inside joke at all.
All right. Well, let's get going here. This is our bonus pod this week. We wanted to just a lot to talk about this season. Lots of things have changed, and it felt like we could probably get another full pod's worth of content out there, but we brought Dave along just to give it a perspective. Dave, people who haven't listened to the pod before or watched us on YouTube, Dave's I'd say a somewhat more analytical manager than Brandon and I. And I think you have numerous top 10K finishes as well, Dave, right? You have at least 4, if not.
Yeah, check out the team ID. Check out the team.
Team ID. All right. Yeah.
I'm trailing Josh in the Hall of Fame, but I'm in there. I'm listed.
Oh,
but,
I'm like sinking like a stone after last season in the Hall of Fame. I'm out of the Generals. I'm in the Generals Elite 64 qualifier now. So at least I'm still,
See,
I'm in
the Europa Conference qualifier of that. I'm not. Okay. I'm still waiting in the mail for my invite and Panini cards.
Yeah, exactly. Make 10 million podcasts. That's really the trick there. And then a quick reminder that tomorrow we're actually doing another piece of content, which is our deadline day.
Well, we got the X dog in him factor
already. I thought that was you doing sound, Brandon. I genuinely thought that was you doing one of your sound effects, and I was like, "Wow, Dave's got that dog in him. I love it."
Dave warned us his big dogs are going to go nuts. His wife just came home, so it's all good. Anyway, you were saying tomorrow we're doing a special deadline stream, 90 minutes, starting at noon Eastern time. 90 minutes before the Game Week 1 deadline. So we'll be with all of our supporters on YouTube. You have to have the link to find us. And we're just going to go through our final teams. There are any last-minute leaks and all the
new press conference stuff.
Conference. Any questions that our Patreons want to throw by us. And often, our Patreons will help us solve some of our dilemmas, too. This could be a fun, back and forth. So go to patreon.com/always cheating. If you just want to support us, say thanks, contribute, join the Discord, and you can get access to that stream and stay with us all season because you get an extra ad-free podcast every Thursday. Again, patreon.com/always cheating. We'll see you there.
Always, whatever the pot's called. So let's get into some news. There are a couple of updates. So I'm actually I have my little running order here. I'm going to take it back to front because I want to share some anytime goal scorer stuff in a second here. And I think it's kind of interesting to look at. But just quickly, and I know we need to recenter and get back in the FPL trend in a second here, but a quick shout out to Poch. Pochettino. New U.S. men's national team manager. It's incredible.
I almost felt stupid sharing that. I saw the rumors come through. It was some guy with 1,000 followers, but he had some news in the past. And I was like, I saw something else too. I was like, I almost felt stupid. I shared it with Brandon in a group chat we're on. I'm like, eyeballs, is this real? And then an hour or two later, it started picking up steam. I'm like, I still can't believe it's real. And I mean, obviously it's exciting and to be determined, our teams, we just don't have the talent. So I don't really know what difference it's going to make.
I feel like
it's cool.
and you're kind of bearing the lead here too, which is what is this group chat that you're on with Brandon that I'm not on? What's going on there?
It's the Pochettino fanboys group chat, obviously.
I guess so. Yeah. All right, we'll talk more later, and I will insert myself into that group chat. I've just decided.
Yeah.
But an incredible signing, super awesome. I guess there's more to say on that, but let's try to keep ourselves on the fantasy train here. So Brighton set to sign our Jorginho Rutter, who was excellent for Leeds last year. It's a 40 million deal. Looks like that is going to go through. It's one of those. It's a little like Solanke. It was a release clause situation. It's always kind of sad because it's always the club wants him to stay. They're in talks, but it's really hard to not. I can understand if it's if it's within the Premier League already, but it's very hard to resist the pull, right, to go up to the Premier League from the Championship. And so it looks like that is going to happen. I know, Brendan, you had been looking at João Pedro, on and off the last couple of weeks. Does that? I mean, I know it's not like Rutter would be starting this weekend, but does that change anything for you, knowing that he might be coming in?
Well, I think there are a lot of players who would be threatened by Rutter at Brighton. Danny Welbeck, the aged one up front.
Sure. And
Pedro can play on the left or down the middle. So it remains to be seen how this really changes the Pedro fantasy effect. I think Pedro just has a number of question marks around him. So you have to accept that you're taking on a risk regardless, and the Rutter news just kind of underscores that. I kind of alluded to on the pod that I couldn't see a way of not ending up having Solanke in place of João Pedro by the time Game Week 1 deadline comes around. So we'll see. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and the news also. I think we kind of knew this as of a couple days ago, but I think further confirmed in the presser today is that it looks like Solanke should be fine. I mean, to start, that is that match is on Monday for Spurs as well, so it's even more time for him to sort of get kind of embedded within the club. Dave, you're a Spurs fan. What are your thoughts on Solanke? I guess kind of overall, and then specifically regarding fantasy.
I mean, overall, I think obviously he's a solid player, and obviously we needed that depth. So I think that it was just a good move, and hashtag not my money. So whatever. Obviously enjoyed the signing as a supporter. I thought it was interesting, and a lot of people on FPL Twitter jumped on this right away. Is like his goal line, total goals season line, didn't move after that. So I know a lot of people are like, number 9 Spurs, he's getting a lot of opportunities, windmill him into your team. But then we weren't doing that when he had the same, betting outlook when he was on Bournemouth. So that had me hesitant, and I'll show my team and my thought process actually today on it. So I think he's a good pick. But I don't think it's like a must have, but I think he's definitely a solid pick given the forward prices as they are now.
Excellent. Yeah. And in just a second here, we'll share your team, and then Brendan and I can talk a little bit about updates and changes to ours. The other piece of news, Estupiñán is back in training. A number of players back in training for Brighton. There's also news of a signing. I forgot his name, but there's another left back that's been rumored as a potential Brighton signing. So the Barco. It's not that the momentum is stalled out there, but
the light has gone out in the Barco camp, unfortunately.
Sadly, yeah. It's like, because now the question is, because of the appeal of Barco for anyone who's doing some last literally 12 hours to go until, listen, that's probably half the people who play fantasy. So I'm not going to no shame, no, whatever, nothing thrown your way here, but
you good.
Yeah, you good. But Barco is this 19-year-old, 4 million left back for Brighton, who's been fantastic in preseason. He's been on set pieces and slowly picked up a lot of excitement within the FPL community.
Many people were saying he's the new Lundstrom. Many people.
Yeah, the new Johnny L, and so now, but with the Estupiñán back in train with another signing rumored, it gives me a little bit of pause, and I'm just do I just get Wout Face, or do I just get one of these 4 million dudes and then at least I've got 1 or 2 points on my bench as opposed to 0, right? It's that little, that can really make a difference, right? It might be only 3 or 4 times a year when you 3 or 4 times in the first 10 weeks, right? Where you might need that. Hopefully it's not that many, right? But it could happen.
So these are the other 4 million defenders in contention. You've got Harwood Bellis, you've got Ben Johnson, and Wout Face. Basically those 3 guys. And they're all on teams where you're expecting them to concede at least 2 goals probably per game. Wout Face then as a center back feels so unappealing to me.
It's funny because you're usually Mr. You and I I hope this doesn't continue all season, but you and I have reversed positions where now I am the sensible one and you're the one who wants to take the big swing. So
sure.
I don't know. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to I don't know, change, evolve. Find my next level. But this is a golden rule with picking center backs. The golden rule is always get the attack with defensive picks, right? Get the attacking one. Now there are many different caveats there, particularly when you get to Arsenal, where you don't know how much the fullbacks are going to get rotated, and the bonus points do come into the center backs, and they're very threatening on set pieces. So. It's not just cut and dry, always get the fullback instead of the center back. But my point with the Wout Face thing is this guy is just going to get a total of 35 points this season.
I mean, I don't know that I totally agree with that. I mean, yeah, I think Leicester are in trouble, but I mean, a giant center back is always going to get you. He's always going to be they're worth a couple goals, right? Sure. Just because like their big meaty foreheads, the ball is going to hit it even if they're not necessarily not even looking at the ball, right? But just like it's like literally like just the physics of just being in the box all the time, right? And like physics and math or whatever. So I don't know, Dave, what do you think like about I don't know if you have any 4 million options. I don't mean to keep teasing your team reveal here, but just like your team aside, what do you think about the 4 million players? Who are you considering?
Yeah, I'm still holding strong on Barco. I'm Barco pilled,
Barco pilled.
Diamond hands, baby.
Diamond hands on Barco. I mean, in the model phase is similar to Harvard Bellis and slightly below Barco. It's just, they're just chop and change people that are, you're going to look back at this team in a month or two and be like, why did we start with any of these fools?
Totally.
So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's true. It's like, this is the kind of stuff that you, especially like with whatever it is, we've got 18 hours or something until the 17 hours until the deadline tomorrow. This is the kind of stuff that you have to really manage your time carefully, right? It's like, could you spend 45 minutes going to several different sites and weighing these 4 million defenders? Yes. Is that really the best, or do you want to be like really drilled down on like captain picks and 7 million midfielders or whatever, right?
The stuff that matters. Well, people don't know. We're like the guys staying in the corner of the party. People don't know that 2 months ago we thought we could have 3.40 rotating defenders and all the players get in, but but now it's just a normal season again.
So one thing I was taking a look at, and I haven't quite figured out how to represent this graphically yet. So I've just kind of mocked this up. And so this will not be like super dynamic. This is just like an early warning here to both of you. But
does that mean I can put some conditional formatting on it in real time? Or?
Yeah, no, this is 10 minutes of work here. But I did want to take a look. One thing I was increasingly doing last season was looking at anytime goal score odds when I was on the fence about certain picks. Now, obviously, when you're looking at assets for your FPL team, you should not, just be looking 1 week ahead, right? But I think it can be a little instructive, especially if you are trying to debate between a couple of different captain picks, right? And just look at some of the anytime goal scores. There are also some markets for to score or assist, but those markets tend to get populated a little bit later. And Brandon, Dave, as you can see here, I filled it in where I could, right? And we sort of don't have anything for a number of matches, including anything on Sunday yet.
So data lag. I get it.
Yeah, a little bit of a data lag here, but I think but I do have anytime goal scorers, and I just pull these from DraftKings, right? You could pull them from anywhere, really. To do it the smartest way, you'd want to look at across several books, and pick your best odds. But
I think FanDuel is a little better for the U.S. folks. I'd recommend FanDuel for this, I think. But yeah.
Well, that's one of the reasons I picked DraftKings is because I think they're a little sharper on anytime goal scorers. It's probably a little more accurate. So just looking at some of the anytime goal scorers for this weekend, I didn't put them on here, but Xerxes was actually the overall anytime goal scorer leader for Man United, who play in tomorrow's match. The reason I don't have him on here is because Ten Hag came out in the press conference today and basically said, he's getting closer. We don't think he's ready to start. And when anytime goal scorer stuff gets calculated, it always assumes that the player will start the match, right? So they're not doing any kind of like deeper analysis here. It's not like, they think, so-and-so is going to come on 30 minutes into the match, and that's why their percentage is lower. The percentage is always based on the player starting the match. I think that's a useful thing to keep in mind when you're looking at these. And so Xerxes' number is at even money effectively to score tomorrow. But that assumes he starts the match, right? And so, sorry, I don't mean to get too bogged down
in the details.
Okay, fair enough. I guess it wasn't that complicated, really. But I do think it's sort of interesting to go through some of these. I think, one thing I noticed right off the bat was that Haaland just nicks. He just is slightly ahead of Mo Salah for the anytime goal scorer odds for the weekend at 56% to 55%. I know that is like so vanishingly small that maybe it just doesn't make any kind of real difference between the two. I suspect when you throw in the to score or assist for Haaland, which isn't available yet, it'll be roughly the same as well. Are you, Dave? I know you said when we were talking before the pod that you were really on the fence still about captaincy. Are you leaning towards a particular pick at the moment?
I'm in crisis, Josh.
Okay.
I've had this same team locked for a month, and just today,
wow. Yeah.
I'm about to rip it up. So the decision point is I've had Salah Holland team. I've had the Salah Holland as a Nkunku template team for like a month, and I've been sticking with it. Mm-hmm. And then today I was like, this is how, by the way, this is a great table because this is how I pick captain. Usually I just pick the greatest odds to get a return or score.
Yep.
Or score 2+, but similar ranking. So I was like, I put it on Isak. I was like, okay, easy game. I'll put the captain on Isak. And I'm like, why do I have Salah?
Yeah.
If I'm not going to captain him.
Yeah.
So then, so that's today. I'm just walking my dog. I'm like, I got to get Salah out because if I don't captain him, it's stupid. So I'm either going to captain Salah or he's not going to be on my team tomorrow. So that's my, it's a little, just a little choice to make.
I mean, I don't have Salah. I haven't really wavered too much on that. If anything, the fact that he's only 67% to score or assist tomorrow actually makes me feel slightly better. I thought those odds might be even higher. 67%. I mean, obviously those are strong odds, but when you compare them to the odds that we're going to see for some very similar, like for example, he and Isak are in exactly the same odds. This is if you're an American style book, they're both minus 200 to score or assist tomorrow.
And so, Saka's in the same ballpark too. So it's just like what's you know. And you save a couple mil. So you
save a couple mil. Exactly. It's a little easier to move to Palmer, I suppose, or it's a little easier to invest your money and keep some in the bank and move to Palmer if you decide to go that route. I have to admit, I haven't really been looking at Saka too much, kind of at all. And I don't really know why. And I wonder if it's sort of the same thing as you, Dave, where I sort of got an idea of the kind of team that I wanted. Ben and I have been doing all of these pods for the last month, right? And he sort of early on settled into I'm going to have Salah, and I sort of early in settled into I'm not going to have Salah. And once you sort of once you start to spread the money around on Salah, it's kind of hard to even get back, like to even get a player in that kind of 10 million range. It's sort of like you start to like doubt whether you want to spread that money around. And I
almost spit take because I saw your team you had to reveal and you had double Spurs, and I was just like, and I had 0 at the time. I was just like, what? And then I had 0 Arsenal. I'm just like, wait, am I too emotionally hedging here? I'm like,
right. So as a Spurs fan. Yeah. I know, and especially because you can get, I think I said on last Sunday's pod that Saka was 10.5. He's actually 10 million. So he's literally the exact same price.
What a blunder by you, Josh.
Well, it did get called out a couple of times. So but it is important, right? In the sense that like they're literally the same. Saka and Son are exactly the same price, right? And even if you were just going, and again, this is why it's kind of useful to look at these bookies odds, right? And it's like whether you're a gambling fan or not, like basically there's incredible modelers, right, who put these things together, and it's super useful just to know what those people think about the odds of a player scoring or assisting this weekend, right? Whether or not you actually plan to place a bet yourself, right? It's just like it's one more data point, and there's all freely available stuff, right? You can just, literally, you can just Google anytime goal scorer Premier League, no matter what country you're in, right? And you can pull this stuff up in about 2 seconds.
Or you read Chris Tan's article on Fantasy Football Hub.
Absolutely,
what a great of the pod.
What a great plug.
He has these as well.
Yeah.
Dave, did you know that you could go to fantasyfootballhub.co.uk/always to get 50% off any membership tier for the whole season? And we love Fantasy Football Hub, so I'm great that you organically worked that in.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And join before tomorrow, and you can win your mini league or get your money back. We're going to turn this into a full read right now.
Let's do it.
Yeah, win your mini league or get your money back. Also, if you are really desperate and freaking out tomorrow, join Fantasy Football Hub. Get your team rated by AI. Get another. Again, I'm talking about anytime goal scorer odds, bookies odds as a data point. That's exactly what an AI rating for your team is, right? It's another perspective. It's another way to look at your team, except in this case, it's specifically focused around your own team and your own decisions.
Right. So there's a link right here in the show description. It's fantasyfootballhub.co.uk/always. As a listener of this pod, you get 50% off a membership at any tier for the whole season.
So Dave, just on the Son versus Saka thing, Son is actually slightly higher, like slightly more favored to score over Saka on the weekend, which I suspect will mean that his score assist number will be a little bit higher as well when we have that. So even if I'm just a little on the fence. I mean, I agree. I don't know if double Spurs is really the smartest move. It does give me a little pause, right? Even if you put aside all of the kind of like European rest stuff with Saka and we're not even really talking about Palmer, right? I think we're all still a little worried about how fresh he's going to be, for this first match on Sunday. Although I have little doubt that he starts, right? Given that they're playing Man City at home. Do you guys think that Palmer's going to start?
The freshness thing for Saka, I think, is a completely different conversation. Saka started virtually every match for England in the Euros because he starts every match in which he is on a team. And that's like the Alexis Sanchez effect, the cumulative effect that Saka is going to be up against, whereas Cole Palmer didn't start any matches for England. He had some important cameos. He was training, He was traveling, he didn't get a vacation until very close to the start of the season. But still, that guy is well positioned, I think, to continue.
Most importantly, Saka fails the eye test because every time he comes off limping every single game. So
this is Brandon's. This is why Brandon, I think, is so sick of him, because it's like you just can't handle him.
It's just terrible eye test, but he still returns. I mean, between Son and Saka, you can flip a coin. Arguably depends on the time horizon, because like Son has a better game week 3, but then, or actually Saka has a better, I think, short term, but then sort of medium term, longer term, Son's fine. So I think they're both very good picks.
Yeah, I think they're. Oh, sorry, I think I just I unmuted myself after I coughed.
Well
Excellent.
done.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, looking at the first two fixtures, Spurs have Leicester away, Everton at home. Arsenal have Wolves at home, Villa away. So I give Arsenal the slight edge for game week 1. I'd give Spurs the clear edge, though, for game week 2, right? I mean, Everton are a strong team defensively, but I just think first home match of the season for Spurs versus away to Villa, where Villa have just been, terrific the last couple of seasons. Right. So that's, so it's sort of like, even from like whether you're looking at it from a bookies odds perspective or a pure like kind of fixtures play, I do think that Son is maybe slightly ahead. The only question for me is whether the double up with Son and Solanke is excessive, and I just don't know. I mean, the question to me is how, when we think about putting together our starting 11s, right, in fantasy, like, is correlation a good thing or a bad thing, right? Like when in like NFL fantasy, correlation is great, right? You want to have a quarterback and a wide receiver like sort of paired together, right? You kind of own those points. It's a little different in Premier League fantasy because you can collectively all own the same players, but like in theory, there should be no reason why it's a problem, right, to have Solanke and Son together. Like it's like, I don't know if it's even a more conservative strategy to kind of spread them around, unless you think that, one team this weekend or next weekend is just not going to show up at all, right? Or they have like an especially terrible fixture, away to Man City or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. If you think one team's going to score 1 or 2, doubling up seems bad because there's not enough to go around. But like you said, if it's going to be a 4-0 game, then doubling up is great. So it could work in both directions. It's just, you're placing a bigger bet on a team. Whereas versus if you're, Saka and Solanke, you're just trying to hit a 2-leg parlay. It's right. It goes both ways. It is.
There's something like instinctively where it feels uncomfortable to have 2 eggs in the same basket or something like that. But I don't. But I think if you're just being sort of objective and just looking at them as independent, somewhat independent, although correlated, obviously, returns, like I think it's fine to have 2 players from the same team.
Yeah. I think when we're often talking about loading up on a team, it's been, the heyday of Liverpool in recent years or Manchester City, where we know they are going to score that many goals, the 4 to 5 to 6 range. And Spurs, they started that last season so strong, and a lot of people ended up with Maddison and Son as 2 midfielders, and it reaped benefits from it until it kind of like all fell off of a cliff.
Yeah.
So, but point is, I don't know if what you're experiencing with Spurs is like an inherent bias of we haven't quite graduated Postecoglou's Spurs to that like Liverpool, Man City in the fantasy realm level.
Yeah, it's like defensively for sure, right? But I honestly wonder if because they're kind of a chaotic team, it like that influences me more, right? But I don't think like. But Son was a terrific fantasy asset effectively all of last season, right? Madison, sadly, I don't think any player, including several like backup goalkeepers, have been talked about less than James Madison going into this season. I think his ownership is negative 27%. Like I don't know anybody.
People are actively trying to get him removed from the FPL side.
He's been red flagged, even though he's he's been treated like he moved to Turkey or something.
Bad team name or something like that.
Yeah,
reported.
Exactly. All right. Well,
what's next, Josh?
Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and I want to move on because Dave, we've teased your team a little bit. I want to take a look at it, and I think it'll be really instructive because I think your perspective is a little different than me and Brandon's, and so I think it'll be useful for people to hear about and sort of walk through. And I think some of the questions that you're talking about, right, in terms of what you want to do with captaincy and some of your final transfers, are probably echo what a lot of people feel. So let's hear it. Tell us about your team.
Yeah, I appreciate taking over this because I'm really seriously kind of freaking. I'm more ready for NFL fantasy in 3 weeks than I am for FPL tomorrow. So this is the template team.
Yep.
I was pretty early on, like a month ago, and then it turned into the template du jour like a week or two ago, and now it's no longer cool. Okay. But basically, Haaland, Salah, no Trent, no Arsenal. Moon is third forward. Eze sticking strong too. So then I'm thinking, if I'm captaining Isak, why do I have Salah? Because I'll never captain him. And then also just sort of like, I have pretty strong bench, but overall I like the team. I like the upside of Nkunku following this game week. I like to win. So overall I was kind of heading, I like, if you know me, how my play style too, I like to have the premiums because then you can spread the cash when you want to transfer, so you can get anyone with one transfer. So I like that optionality. Yeah. And I think that's an advantage.
This podcast is supported by IPVanish VPN. If you care about the security of your online activity, the easiest way to protect yourself is with IPVanish. Rated excellent on Trustpilot, IPVanish provides an encrypted connection for all of your internet traffic, helping to prevent websites, Wi-Fi providers, and hackers from intercepting your data. Help keep your financial details, personal information, and online activity safe from threats with IPVanish. Get started with this limited time offer and save 83% on our 2-year subscription. Visit ipvanish.com/cheating. Again, that's ipvanish.com/cheating.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Well, let's tackle the Salah question first then, right? So let's say that you, just putting aside his like expected returns for a second. I mean, I'm not putting aside, but just like whether he's like just objectively worth owning, regardless of whether you captain him. Like looking ahead to the first I don't know, 5 or 6 fixtures of the season, can you identify like a specific game week where you would definitely captain him over Isak or Haaland?
No.
Yeah, that's my problem too. I mean, because he has an amazing fixture like Brentford at home in game week 2, but it's not as good as Haaland's, right? I mean, Haaland has Ipswich at home in game week 2. I'm trying to find like one
game week
fixture.
5, Arsenal at home. That's a home game.
So maybe then, and Liverpool play Bournemouth at home. So, but it's like, but again, it's
that's
like
also
if
in
you're
a month,
5 weeks away. Exactly. It's after an international break, so and even in game week 5, who does Isak, Newcastle play Fulham away. So not a great fixture. I'd probably just captain Haaland in that case. Yeah. So, I mean, Brandon, what do you think about all this as somebody who's planning, as far as I know, to stick with Salah?
Sure. Yeah, I will have Haaland, Isak, and Salah. And I just view it as not necessarily a detriment, but a benefit. You have these players because you expect consistency. Obviously, the downside is you lose the cash to spend on other players. But then the conversation has to be not how we are against Salah, but who are you bringing in place of him that is somehow going to enrich your team more than having a guy who could hat trick, honestly, against any opponent. Salah could. And it's not like a loss to have an uncaptained Salah. You still get his points. I understand the rationale of if you're not captaining him, it's a waste, but I just don't really see it that way.
So Brandon,
you're paying a premium for the consistency.
So that was my thinking for about a month. Yeah. Let me pitch this to you.
Go on.
Salah, Muniz, and Nkunku to Saka, Solanke, Jota. So Salah, Muniz, and Nkunku to Saka, Solanke, Jota. So Saka is basically similar odds than Salah. They score similarly. You upgrade Muniz to Solanke, who has more upside. Upgrade. And then Nkunku to Jota, who has more upside game week 1. And then move him whenever you want. I don't like Jota, but game week 1, he's a good play. So
sure.
I had that, it sort of flashed in my head. I'm like, this seems like so obvious. Like if someone posts on Twitter A or B, I'd be like B. So I'm like, why am I not playing it? So
that's it. The way you pose the question is it's like in a vacuum with these 3 players, but you've got 11 players that are going to be on the field. There is another way. Like there is a way to have an Isak, Haaland, Salah team that you're fine with, and I agree with the example that you just set, but that's, there are 8 other players that you haven't even mentioned in that.
Well, I want to talk about Dave's team more, but I am curious, Brandon, since we potted on Sunday, have you made any changes or adjustments to your team as somebody who has the Isak, Salah, Haaland trio?
I haven't made any adjustments. It's, age-old excuse. It's been wild out there in the work inbox. But I do have to contend with the Oscar Bobb injury, and then
right.
So then I think for me, if you're going with all of these premiums as discussed, you're really in the muck with the cheap guys.
Do you have Trent?
No, I don't have Trent.
Okay, that's fine then.
Yes. So like Trent is kind of a different version of that argument of, I don't know, why are you paying like getting the most expensive defender if you're not captaining him? I don't know. Does that logic apply?
A little bit. Because you're like, well, I'm going to play him versus a midfielder. Like people talk about that. Right. Like I'm like, sure. I guess I'd rather have a midfielder. But
that's interesting. Yeah, I suppose in theory you have 2 ways to score, but I don't really trust. Like, did Liverpool like suddenly get better defensively? Like, I mean, I know they're not like bad,
I've never had Trent. He's not a bad pick, but I've never had him either for that reason.
Yeah, same.
You've never had him this preseason. You've had him in your FPL career, though, Dave.
I think so.
What about, okay, this is like maybe like just humor me on this one, because I have never really been on the Munoz train. And I think because there's some part of me that's like, I just don't want to spend $5 million on a Crystal Palace defender. Like, I don't think they're quite strong enough defensively to make it worth it. Are his kind of like, is this potential for attacking returns so strong that I should be reconsidering?
Yeah, this? Okay. That's what I'm looking at. And my whole strategy with tinkering this offseason is spend as little in defense as like possible without it being just completely a train wreck. I've actually spent a little more than even I've wanted to, because I was thinking like I could drop him to a 4 or 5, or even I recently did Guardiola Porro because Porro's a little better upside. So I'm getting the Spurs in to so
I might disagree on that upside question, but he is 0.5 million cheaper. So there's
well, that's true. Yeah. I mean, I know based on the fixtures, I guess, and if I know people are saying if Rodri doesn't play, the defense might be a little leaky. So I don't know. I don't know if Porro scores, I'd just be inconsolable, I guess.
Yeah. Well, this is where the Spurs fandom comes into play. Do you think because you have an interesting, the arc for you a little bit, Dave, over the years has been that you kind of have like a slowish start. You have a somewhat template-ish team. And then by the end of the season, you've once again sort of found yourself in the top 10K and at the top of many of our mini leagues. And so do you think that you have a hard time sort of seeing things like, it sort of sounds to me like you're like there's like, it's like a Texas Hold'em player that it's like Daniel Negreanu or something. It's like, you just want to get into the pot cheaply. Right. And then like, once you're in, you can sort of adjust, like you're good at in-game adjustments, and I wonder if there's like, I don't know. Do you think that's true?
No, I think overall, no, you were cooking there. I think my
lost my confidence halfway through. Yeah.
No, you were cooking. I was like, where's this going? I think you're right, because I'm good at I'm grinding it out. I just always try to make a good, solid EV move. Also, try to work with like eye tests and gut feel a little bit too, but always just, make every deadline, make every move. Don't panic. So I feel like in season, I'm pretty good. You're right. There's been a couple of years. Well, goes back to sort of the philosophy of when do you attack, like the first game week, the first 3 game weeks, the first 6 game weeks. Cause Josh, you and I have gone back and forth on wild card where it's a good thing to save, but also it makes you get the most value by doing it early.
Right.
And like you said, for the goal scoring odds, I'm really have my head in a pretzel on like how much to attack this game week. Like bank the points or like plan ahead. Because I do like to plan ahead, but
that's how I feel about someone like Luis Diaz or Jota. Maybe, it's like that if because I'm in this similar boat where I don't plan to have Salah, and so I mean, they do have an excellent early run of fixtures, right? And so it would be nice to sort of be in on that. I don't think it's like a FOMO thing as much as I expect there to be goals in those matches, right? I just don't expect there to be so many goals that's worth it to me to kind of reorganize my team to have Salah, right? But I do think that there's a chance that the goals could be kind of spread around a little bit. I actually wonder if I'm kind of being a little silly, like having Diaz over Jota. Like if we think that Jota is going to be starting out of position, it's only my risk of him getting injured that's stopping me from having him, right? Like otherwise, why would I not just have him?
You're minority reporting Diogo Jota, and I don't like that.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I am, but it is based on the fact that this guy goes... I mean, how many days, like in his life, has it gone with being injured?
No, I mean,
it's
there's
12, 13.
Well, you got to be careful too. The people doing their research now just started because all the people are like, Jota's per 90. He's like the most elite thing ever. It's like, well, yeah, but look at all the models have his X minutes at like 59 because like that's how much. But even given that, he's going to score. So it's
that's true. He's not going to play. He's not going to play 90 almost ever, right? Whereas Diaz is, but again, like. In general, a good rule of thumb is when you have an opportunity to take a midfielder who's playing out of position as a forward, that is the right approach to take, right? They're just going to get more goal scoring chances. Mm-hmm. And I don't think any of us feel like Darwin is suddenly going to start converting his chances so well that he's going to kind of beat Jota out of that starting spot, right? I mean,
you wouldn't think so. And then there's the matter of Gakpo too, which seems like the more minutes he plays, whether it's for the Netherlands or Liverpool, it's just like set him a little off the striker maybe, and that's a better position for him. So then I agree, it leaves Jota as the best option for Slot as we start the season at number 9.
Yeah. Okay, good. I think I actually think that is a change that I'm going to be making tonight. I'm glad we talked this through. Now, what about Eze? Because I have had Eze. It's actually been a joke because Brandon, what was the joke that you were not going to have João Pedro at the start of the season and I wasn't going to have Eze, right?
Correct.
And so now here we are 17 hours away and I'm starting to get cold feet on Eze a little bit. He is an algorithm's favorite, right? Like you can't shake a stick at a fantasy algorithm without seeing Eze near the top of it, right? He does a lot of things really well, but this is a team that seems to be in a little bit of transition, including with Eze himself, possibly, right? This idea that Man City may activate, a buyout clause.
That was one of my favorite moments on Twitter, Josh, when someone's like, "What are you going to do if Eze gets moved?" You go, I don't know, transfer him.
I didn't know what to say. And that was actually our friend Mikey, producer Mikey. And actually, when I realized it was producer Mikey, I went back and did a second tweet to follow up. But I mean, it's like. First of all, I actually was thinking about these exit clauses, whatever the opt-out clauses they put in these contracts. And at first I was like, why would clubs do this? Why would they allow these things to be in their contract? And then I realized they must love it, right? Because you have this opt-out clause. It allows the other club to buy you, or buy your top player, which secretly, because these are all money-making jackals, they love, right? Like bank an incredible amount of profit on these players, but they get to pretend that there was nothing they could do, right? The out clause was activated. There's nothing they could do, right? And so it's like they just kind of throw their hands up. It's not our fault, guys, that we lost Solanke a week before the season. So I don't know. This is my little conspiracy theory.
Yeah. It's funny what you were saying though about Crystal Palace. It's not funny, but let's talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
The transition.
I said it in a funny way. I did.
Yeah, kind of a jokey, sort of a ha-ha, wink, sort of a way.
Cheerful. Yeah.
Because there. If you talk to a Palace fan, they're just like, "You're a moron. We're going to finish in the top 6 or have the ability to do that." Right. Things clearly were working with Glasner at the end of last season. But then, the skepticism comes in to be like...
By the way, I like that Dave shared his full screen so we can just see him moving around between every tab.
It's a live stream. We're loose, right? We're going to compare some players.
Absolutely.
Dave can, every episode that Dave comes on, he can share a new secret bookmark that he has. But I think the skepticism starts to creep in to be like, okay, you had the bounce from Glasner coming in, and how much of the end of that season was the bounce and the vigor that he brought to the club. And, Munoz was one of those players where Glasner was clearly just energizing that team to say, go attack and do your thing. So Elise leaves. There's rumors swirling around Eze. Every center back at the club has been rumored to leave, on top of the summer can deflate whatever that bounce might have been. So now it really does come down to how good are these players and how good really is Glasner. And that's when you get the cold feet about investing really early in Palace. Is Palace a team where, hopefully the Palace fans will be right and they'll be great, and then we can just get the players as opposed to feeling compelled to have a bunch of Palace players to start the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, I feel like I'm a little overexposed on new manager players, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I think this, the Liverpool is kind of the same boat, right? We don't quite know some of the tendencies with Brighton, right? You can look at it. I mean, how many clubs have a new manager going into the season? I mean, I guess I'm not even counting the promoted clubs, right? But it's a handful, right? West Ham, of course, as well. So I think there is a lot of uncertainty in terms of. We all know that managers have favorites, right? And then sort of players that they either really trust or that they just don't, or they don't trust, right? Mm-hmm. And they sort of they're going to get 50. I can't think of I have a couple vague ideas of who these players are, but I feel like there are those 55-minute players, right? Where the manager's this is all you're going to get, man, because I just don't trust you. It's you're not delivering today.
Well, Dave's really bringing the heat on the hub today. He's sharing on screen a historical data comparison between Fabrizio Eze and Diogo Jota. And it's interesting to look at their key fantasy stats, where Eze is far superior to Jota on big chances created, And David, you're gonna have to blow this up a little bit so I can actually read this.
And by the way, is the data that you're sharing, is it just for last season, Dave, or is this like?
Yeah, this is full season last year.
Yeah. Okay. And so we're as a superior on shots, actually. So that just goes to the efficiency of Jota, taking fewer shots but converting so many of them. Just expected FPL points as a superior, where Jota wins out shots in the box and touches in the box. He's just very around the Liverpool attack, whereas Eze is more of the quarterback of the team.
Mm-hmm. Like your unemployed friend. He's just always around, always available. So, I mean, I do slightly prefer Jota over Eze, but I mean, I guess the interesting question would be Eze versus kind of anybody else. Like yesterday I was sort of starting to like wonder if Morgan Gibbs-White was actually somebody who I should be giving a little more attention to. I was thinking about, in my case, it was more about Nkuku versus Morgan Gibbs-White, but because they're the same price. But Morgan Gibbs-White is an interesting asset in some ways. Double-digit assists last season. And, it's almost like he's a little too expensive. And because of that, it sort of throws me off a little bit. But I don't know. I mean, for Morgan Gibbs-White, I actually think in some ways it's the reason I'm interested in it to play is just because I think they might actually have the best opening three fixtures of any team to start the season.
That Nkuku visualization is hilarious, Dave. So, okay, Forest, great opening fixtures, but that implies that Forest can have great fixtures. If you follow what I'm saying there.
I do, but I mean, again, like we're talking about a player who got 12 assists last. I mean, like, he's delivered like from a fantasy point of view. We just don't think, there's no Forest just in general. It's like we sort of, I mean, Chris Wood does get some attention. Brennan, you and I have like barely talked about Chris Wood at all. Are we sleeping on him a little bit as like if Solanke is a little bit of a kind of, wait and see, we feel like there's something good here, but we don't quite know. Mm-hmm. Is there a logic in just starting with Chris Wood, who, again, just to read off the fixtures here, it's Bournemouth at home to start the season, right? A Bournemouth club that's not going to be kind of reeling after losing their kind of talismanic forward. In game week 2, they play Southampton away, right? Who are, honestly like a bit of a mess, and a promoted club at that too. And then in game week 3, they have Wolves at home. So it's a pretty strong start to the season. And if you just looked at Wood as just a kind of short-term buy, right? Because after game week 3, we have our first international break of the season. It's a chance to reset a little bit. I don't know. Maybe we're sleeping on Wood a little bit.
I guess in the content creation world, you've got to make a bold stance or else it's very uninteresting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you might be right, but my bold stance is no, thank you. No, ma'am.
Yeah. What do you think, Dave? I understand what you're saying, Beeb, but I don't have him either, right? I'm just sort of throwing it out there as a
it's like he had this very small window last season where he scored that like hat trick against Newcastle and looked kind of epic, and then it really did tail off, and Newcastle kind of tailed off again. They kind of eked out of the relegation scrap, and I like going back to this key word for me in consistency. And what you're looking for in your fantasy assets, I don't see that enough with Forest or with Wood.
Yeah,
what about you, Dave?
We're looking at it for the audio listeners. We're looking at a chart. It's exactly what you remember. It's Wood doesn't have that. He doesn't get that many shots, but when he does, he scores. Versus Munoz has a lot more opportunities, is a bit more wasteful. So, they're both. I think they both are valid picks. I thought I heard. I think Mark, isn't he a Forest fan? He was saying, Wood, he's only guaranteed a few weeks and then he might be dropped out. So that alone, I was just
could be healthy.
Yeah. Again, that alone, like put me, if they're about equal with Munoz, that put me towards Munoz just for a bit more safety. But
yeah. And Muniz is he was given the number 9 shirt over the summer, and Jimenez will probably be like the cup striker for Fulham. Muniz will start virtually every match for Fulham if it all goes well.
I guess this goes back to what Dave was saying. I know it would have been great if we went on this pod and we were incredibly strong opinion about everything. But I think unfortunately the night before the season is when you really are kind of debating so many different questions. And I think the thing that Dave had said before about how much weight should we put on game week 1, right? Like, because Mooney's, it's like, it's just not super fun to like start game week 1 away to Man United. It doesn't feel like a terrific opportunity for him. But if you look at game week 2 and game week 3, Leicester at home, Ipswich away, right? 2 promoted clubs, back-to-back fixtures for a very cheap forward who opens up, the cash for the rest of your squad. I mean, for someone like you, Brendan, who's planning to have Salah and Haaland, I mean, I think he's worth considering, still over Solanke.
First of all, I'm like mystified by all the optimism around Manchester United at the start of the season. Like I was listening to the second captains and like Jonathan Wilson and Miguel Delaney were like, oh, top 4 contenders possibly. I'm like, what's really changed at Manchester United? And, Fulham supporters are looking at that match at Old Trafford saying we would be disappointed if we didn't get at least a point out of that match. Yeah. And Fulham might be high on their own supply after having like a nice, productive season and finding some goal scoring form.
Good season, I would say.
It was a good season. But the João Palhinha thing sort of like looms, but it just sort of puts more pressure on Fulham to be an even more attacking club than they were last summer. So I just feel like there are goals. I think Muni's. This is why I'm on Smith Rowe right now, because I think there will be goals with Fulham, and it's going to be so much fun to have an attacking player. And it just seems to balance in the way I see my fantasy team balance more to have one of these cheap Fulham guys than taking a flyer on Garnacho.
I was going to look, by the way.
And Garnacho has good data, but he might not even start. I don't know. United seem to be doing good business. They seem to be acting rational. I think that's maybe people are out over their skis a little bit, but the bookies like them to score a bunch against your team. So
I'm a little surprised that the odds for Muniz to score tomorrow are I guess that maybe they're what you'd expect. He's at
they're actually. Yeah, it's lower. I was looking because I've been doing Muniz versus Rogers starter sit all day too.
Right.
I guess fun one.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So Muniz is at 36.4% to score tomorrow. So a little better than 1 in 3, which isn't terrible. Maybe if you throw in an assist possibility, it gets closer to 40 to 50%.
On the Rogers thing, I've just got this inkling about West Ham. With Lopetegui coming in and talk about good business. I feel like West Ham's done pretty good business over the summer, and Villa will be working, Ollie Watkins back into the squad. What are they going to look like right out of the gates away at, you and I, Josh, we went to the London Stadium, those fans baying for blood at all times.
It was one of the more intense. It was very interesting to go to West Ham and then go right from West Ham to Crystal Palace 48 hours later. Right?
There's some real matches there.
Although honestly, we had some intensity there. Remember, there was that Everton supporter who snuck into the
bit of a bonehead. Palace. That guy.
It was intense.
What a blunder.
So
it was a blunder, yeah.
This is my thing with Rodgers, where I'm kind of like, I like Rodgers as a pick. Generally, like anyone could be my Bobb replacement, but I would bench it. I just feel like it would be fine to bench him against West Ham. I think it feels like a 1-1 draw or something to me right now.
But this is another head scratcher I had. If I'm not playing Rodgers, why don't I just save 0.5?
Yeah,
you will have then your concern is like, well, how long is Rodgers going to be viable? And the theory would be maybe not that long. So instead,
I I like what you said. Sorry, I cut you off again, but you did say, you made a good point in the last pod though, of you had a 5.0 almost all last year, and it's it's fine. Yeah. It's not a huge deal.
Yeah. It is fine. That was like Thomas Suchek, where you just knew he was going to play every game, and that was his promise to your fantasy team. I just have a hard time downgrading to a Harry Winks or the like, where you just feel like you're not going to get any productivity out of them. So how much more do I have to spend above 4.5 to get some promise of productivity?
Yeah. All right. Well, Dave, what other questions, if you want to pull up your team one last time here, I'm curious if you have any final questions. Then we'll wrap things up with a couple of questions that we got from some listeners.
I think my only other question was, this is not helping me, by the way. I'm still just, I don't know which way I'm going to go on Salah, but I'll make that a deadline decision. But the other one I had was just like Konsa versus Anthony Robinson. This is for Brandon as the Fulham. So Jedi versus Konsa. So I know, Josh, you've been banging the Konsa drum a bit. He's good, decent attacking, but I've heard some Villa people online saying our defense is garbage. Don't go near us to start.
How can that be true?
I don't know.
I mean, like, what radical changes have happened that would make them like garbage though? Like same manager, same keeper. I mean, I don't know.
Well, let's assume because we've seen the clean sheet odds go down across the board. Like people are not expecting clean sheets a lot to start the year. So who's more attacking? Is it Konsa or Robinson? Do I have to pull up the hub again?
Through that? No. You don't need to, because I mean, Konsa is primarily playing as a center back, and Robinson is a left back.
There is a theory that Konsa gets moved out to the right where Matty Cash would play, and Konsa's done that for Villa and for England before. I just don't know how long is that, like a season-long plan that Emery would have? Like, how mobile is Konsa really to do that for the entire season? So yeah, if you think that Konsa eventually moves into the center or just is a center back pairing, then yeah, it's Robinson all day. And I think the appeal, Dave, of Robinson is that he just gets better and better and better every season. He was Fulham's player of the season last year, and his link up with Emile Smith-Rowe seems very promising.
Josh, if you pull up the hub, they're pretty similar charts. I gotta
Interesting. Well, what about Lewis Hall? He's the one I've been sort of circling around a little more recently. It feels like he has some interesting potential. 4.5 million Newcastle defender, arguably one of the best opening fixtures for game week 1. Again, I'm not just looking at game week 1, but you'd have a potential to get a cheap left back on a team that should be pretty solid. And
Newcastle defender debate online is reaching levels that I can't approach.
No one knows.
But the whole corner of the internet, I'm like, I don't even want to like engage in
totally.
This,
but it feels like the consensus that I'm seeing, at least from Newcastle supporters, who I feel like I would trust more than FPL touts on this question, is that Hall is pretty solidly in that position, and that even if they were able to bring in Gahey at some point, he would probably still start over Dan Burn. And so I don't know. So I think that there's a little bit of doubt over all of them, and maybe that's enough to kind of scare you off every asset. Yeah. But I don't know. I think there's some potential there.
Yeah, there is potential in Hall. Like there are a lot of fans of Lewis Hall. I've personally never seen it, and he's just not nailed ever in his young career, nailed down a starting spot. I guess that's always the pursuit when he was at Chelsea and now at Newcastle, but he's yet to do it. So you're kind of just betting on him actually landing a starting role for the first time in his career.
He's 19 years old. You're making it sound like he's like a 27-year-old veteran who's kicked around for 10 years.
Yeah. But it's just, I'm not sure that's what you want. I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it is a little messy. I do agree with that. Although it seems like it's an interesting punt. His ownership is so low too. He's around 5% owned, which does make him.
What's your appetite, Josh, for a game week 3 wild card? So I get this kind of plays into it because there's this constant debate of will they, won't they start? Barco's minutes are in jeopardy. Lewis Hall, I don't know what's going on with the Newcastle defense. And you've got to free yourself up to take some risks with the understanding that this will all be solved. If it becomes a problem, you just play the wild card. Are you okay doing that?
I mean, that would be an argument against having Barco, I suppose. I mean, if let's say I turn Barco into Vout face, then I have Konsa, who I'd feel quite good about. Saliba, who center back should be fine. Gvardiol, I suppose there's rotation risk there. I'd say more than concerned about injury risk. So I don't know. I mean, you're right that it's a good thing to think about, like whether I'm sort of okay with, but that's always true. I don't know. I mean, like I've had seasons where I felt great for 10 weeks and wildcarded. I've had seasons where I got 1 week in and I've wildcarded too. I don't necessarily, my approach has never been to kind of pre-bank. I don't even have a game week 2 decision in mind at the moment, right? Like and I guess maybe this is a little bit like what I was saying with Dave, where I like to adjust on the fly quite a lot, and it doesn't give me a tremendous anxiety to do that, right? It just feels like that's sort of part of the fun of playing. So I don't necessarily mind if I have to do a pretty big rethink after 1 week.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, it's almost like in some ways it's almost safer to attack the first couple of game weeks and assume you'll wild card, because that's like the worst case scenario. And actually it's like a decent way to play too, because you're going to get the full data from, not full data, but you'll get some data and you'll get the full effect of the wild card versus people that limp along and try to bank their 5-6 transfers, however many you can do this year, and that whole thing. And also this year you can roll it, right? You can roll a transfer from the wild card. So there's a bunch of advantages to early wild card that actually might make it a good strategy. So I'm sort of leaning towards attacking the first couple of game weeks now that I think about it.
I still really don't have a clear strategy for how I'm going to handle the 5. Maybe none of us do, right? It's sort of like, I don't know, Brendan, like, have you given too much thought yet to the 5 transfer?
No, I think it's hard at the start of the season to game it out like that, because we don't know if our game week 1 teams are going to be any good. Like, I'm not expecting the 5 transfer thing to come into full effect until later in the season, because we're probably just going to be, repairing broken pieces of our team for the first month to try to get it right and adjust to the vibes of the season. It would be a miracle if your team was sturdy enough out of game week 1 that you could go 5 weeks without making a transfer. And if I'm in that boat, then it wasn't my transfer strategy that saved me. It was just I nailed my game week 1 draft.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Josh, we got to we have to sunset the curse of 2 free
I know
free transfers.
Yeah, exactly.
The curse of 5. Wow.
Yeah, curse of 5. Yeah. It's amazing they carry over. It's actually it's a great touch. I mean, we've been very open with our praise of the adjustments they've made to the game. All right, let's do a couple quick questions and then we'll sign off here. Okay, guys?
Yes.
All right, so let's just do these lightning round style, okay? I don't know if we have any music to go with that.
Oh, yeah. When you say lightning round, it just makes me... sorry, hold on 1 second.
Incredible.
You're going to make my dogs bark with that.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff. All right, okay, so we talked about Solanke. Eric asks about how we feel about X minutes for the popular Brighton players. Who are the popular ones besides João Pedro? Barco, right? Yeah, we talked about that a little bit already. I think we're sort of you're rolling
Minta.
with right. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of like intriguing players, but it kind of goes back to that new manager stuff we talked about before.
Yeah, they feel like Chelsea to me, where like a lesser Chelsea, and that there's a new manager, and then there are more unknown players currently at Brighton than there are at Chelsea. It just feels like a team that, even though I currently have 2 of their guys in my squad, I'm like, I would really just love to see them play for a little bit.
Yeah,
they're cosmic jumbo like Chelsea. We don't know
cosmic gumbo. Miles C said there's a lot of interesting midfield picks at 5.5 million, but is Harvey Elliott a possibility? I need a differential to make fantasy fun again.
I got you. 5.5 differential. It's everyone's favorite differential. I'm not being totally original here, but Brereton on Southampton.
Yeah, Brereton.
That's your differential. 5.5.
Yeah. What is? Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, I haven't seen him pop up more and more. I don't have like a firm opinion on Brereton. Is there like a quick like elevator pitch for Brereton, Dave?
Well, he came in as a late transfer for Sheffield United last season and was the only capable person on that team, and he seems like I wonder if he's kind of like an Armando Broja type player where it's like, let's just put him on increasingly bad teams and he looks really good. I mean, I don't want to diminish him. He is a good player. But hard to read for those reasons, I think.
There are two things that are interesting to me about Brereton Diaz, neither of which have anything to do with fantasy. One is that his first name is Ben, which I think is just kind of a fun, first name for someone who goes by Brereton Diaz. And the other one is that he was born in Stoke. Did you guys know that Ben Brereton Diaz was born in Stoke-on-Trent?
Wow,
this is surprising to me. I did not realize
a large Chilean community, maybe.
He is an onion. This man.
We're finding out more and more as we go. All right. Yeah.
Going back to the Harvey Elliott thing, though, I saw the most ridiculous article on The Athletic yesterday. Is Harvey Elliott going to be the breakout like Cole Palmer player this season? And it's like the Elliott PR team is working overtime right now.
Yeah, I think Oscar Bobb actually could have been that player if it wasn't for this broken. So what? He's got a broken bone in his leg or something like that.
It's a leg break, but not a bad one. Like
okay, feels like any break is bad. When it comes to legs,
yeah. You can't walk those off.
Yeah. Okay.
Is he still being drafted in draft game, or do we know?
It's like
he's still top 100.
He should be ready by the fall. Is that kind of how we feel about him? Is that?
I don't know the prognosis, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just like a stay away zone right now.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if you're suggesting like get him and hang on to him. And ride it out.
No, this is draft game corner
draft. Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, okay. Yeah.
In our 12-team draft league, we're gonna fire up.
That's right. We tried to get Brandon to join fantasy NFL draft last week, Dave, and he put the ixnay on that. So maybe you can do some side work and see if you can get him on that.
Okay.
Fun side.
By the way, anyone listening, get in the Discord.
Hobbies.
There's people who want to start a second league NFL in the Discord. And we got 3 folks so far. Brandon's in 2 so far.
Perfect. Oh yeah. So we'll do a quick. And we have new patrons, but we'll shout them out on our Sunday pod, by the way. But once again, you can go to patreon.com/alwayscheating to support the podcast and get access to that live stream that we're doing on Deadline Day tomorrow. Final question comes from Dork Lord. He says Havertz versus Solanke. Poor Kai Havertz has been talked about almost as infrequently as James Madison on this pod. I think we talk about James Madison, the president, more than we talk about James Madison, the footballer on this
Taft podcast. Might be
Taft's
above Havertz right now.
Yeah, 100%. So Havertz versus Solanke. I mean, Kai Havertz, I think my feeling with him is basically just that he we talked about the appeal of Jota as an out of position player. The concern with Havertz is we have a reverse out of position player, right? Arteta's been going on about how excellent Gabriel Jesus has looked in the offseason. Now Gabriel Jesus can kind of play out of position, but not really, right? I mean, like he's not going to play in the left or the right, right? They have tons of depth on the left and Saka's on the right. Saka always plays. He's not really going to play in the hole because that's the Odegaard spot, right? So you kind of either starts up front or not at all, right? Whereas Havertz has a number of different positions he can play in. So I just don't like that ambiguity around him. I like his price at $8 million. I think it's fair.
I feel like it's Havertz's spot, though. I wonder if Arteta does that in public just to big up a player who knows he's not going to get a lot of minutes. So it kind of, puffs Jesus up a little bit. I mean, if I had 4 forward spots, Havertz, I feel like I'd have Havertz in my team. If I had 5 forward spots, I'd definitely have Havertz. The problem is trying to just figure out like what the, to use Dave's favorite term, EV is. Yeah. The dog. What's the X dog in him with Havertz? Yeah. What do you think about the Havertz pick, Dave?
I want to like it. The one thing is when the odds came out, was like how many goals Arsenal were going to score against the Wolves, and I had 0. And I was like, that could be an oopsie if I don't have any Arsenal attack. So I don't mind the shout. It's like one of those, fire up your phone an hour before the game and pick some players and you beat us who've been grinding for 2 months on this. Like, that's the pick that Havertz is. It's like, of course, he's going to get a brace.
That's very true. Yeah. And like all of us were like, I don't like the long-term potential of him as a forward. Yeah. That's true enough. All right, let's end it there. Thanks everyone for listening. Again, we'll have deadline day pods for our Patreon supporters. If you even if you don't want to listen to the stream, but you want to support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/alwayscheating. And you can also join Hub. You go to fantasyfootballhub.co.uk/always to get a discount up to 50% off your season membership. Brendan, do you want to thank our producer patrons?
Big thanks, as always, to producer Mike DePietro, Trevor Ingerson, Dave Weigner-Lodahl. Dave, thanks for being on the pod today. Our buddy Dave. Chris Howell, Andy Penn, Nick Wright, Lazarus Yanos, Jesse Halstead, Bruce Kerr, Brian Chin, Bobbas Kuhn, Ron Frost, Blair Jacobson, Todd Byerly, Andy Portlock, Dan Parsons, Terrence O'Donnell, Kerry Swanson, Jefferson Turner, Easy Does It, Francis Moore, Sam Shower, Craig Jackson. I'm really struggling on this one. Caleb Robbie, Brian Clark, Thomas Tislov, Fro Jacobson, The Saint, Gareth H., Shalin F. Kadakia, Rishi Nigam, Noah and Louise, Travis Grant, Linus Vennerstrom, Matthew Skinner, Ben Coombs, Eric Kite, Rune Sandberg, James Murraywood, Jane C., James Holland, and Jack. Rate, review, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter @HailCheaters, wherever you get your social media. And that website is alwayscheating.com. Go to alwayscheating.com so you can just click right at the top of the screen to auto join the Always Cheating Super League. That's our free league open to all of our listeners, and the winner gets whatever they want from our online shop.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening. And we'll see some of you tomorrow. Otherwise, have a excellent game week 1. Best of luck to everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. We'll be back on Sunday as well with Main Feed Pod. Bye.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.